So today's topic is rhythm changes, a huge topic, and I'm not gonna cover everything. I'm just gonna focus on the A section. So rhythm changes is this old tune, I Got Rhythm, right? The changes from that tune, more or less. And over the years, people have added stuff, and it's all these reharmonizations and all these things you can do. It's basically a turnaround, like 1, 6, 2, 5. And there's so many contrafacts, as it were, on which means a new melody to an old standard or an old tune, that it's kind of essential to understanding how to play jazz, how to improvise. If you want to know how to play over jazz, how to play especially bebop in that tradition, you need to be able to play over rhythm changes and jazz blues. That's it. If you can do that, then you understand kind of where everything is coming from, I think. So I have this book. It's the volume 47 of Jamie Aebersold's very famous books series. People have different opinions about his books, but I think there's no question that he's very influential in jazz pedagogy. He's probably the most famous of all of those people, right? So this is a good volume, and I'm gonna cover some of the stuff from here and some other stuff that I came up with myself or that I learned over the years. Which is really good, this one, because there's a backing track of rhythm changes in every key, all 12 keys, and they're different styles. And he wrote out a head for each key, so it's a really nice play along. And then there's all these ideas of different licks and stuff that you can do, right? So it's a very good book, this one, I think. So let's just get right into it. What is it? Well, the A section is just a 1, 6, 2, 5. Then there's a little deviation to the 4 chord. So 2, 5 to E flat. Sometimes you'll see B flat, B flat 7, E flat. Then it could be A flat or E flat minor. Or sometimes it's an E diminished. There's different variations, right? So let's see what we got here. I just pick any one randomly. So here we got B flat, G minor. Obviously, a lot of times you see G7, right? We're gonna get into that later. So B flat, G minor, C minor, F. Oh, there was a G7, second time. Interesting. They're pretty much up for grabs, right? Doesn't really matter that much. Then B flat 7, 4 chord, 4 minor, D, and then the second ending you'll do a quicker turnaround. Then we have the bridge. I'm not gonna cover the bridge. It's more self-explanatory, I think. The bridge is just a bunch of dominants, right? So to me, that wasn't the problem. The problem was, how do I sound good over the A section, over those turnarounds? It's basically a turnaround. Okay, so what happened to me was that I couldn't really figure out how to sound good over that turnaround. So I went to different teachers, and they told me all this stuff you can do. You can replace the B flat with a D minor, G7, altered maybe. And all that's good, and you should know all that stuff, right? But the problem for me was that I was trying to make all those changes, like D minor to G, C minor to F, or even the alteration. And that is good. It is important to practice that stuff. But here's the thing: if you play like that all the time, that's not how you do it. You get kind of locked into that kind of D minor G, C minor F, D minor G, F minor B. It's just not. It doesn't give you. How should I put this? So we need to simplify, right? So if you think about the turnaround, if you don't alter any of the chords, they're all in the same key. This is kind of what I've covered before in my lesson on key centers. So if I just loop those chords, all this is just B flat major, right? So just play B flat major and try to sound good. That was a little bit bad, that loop. Let me do that again. So what you'll notice after a while is that it's kind of like tonic dominant, or even tonic subdominant. That's the kind of feeling, right? So if you focus on the B flat for the first two bars, or the first bar, and then the subdominant, the E flat sound on the second bar, it's kind of like B flat, E flat. That's kind of the sound, right? So let me demonstrate that. B flat, E flat. If you want to add more notes, it could be like a B flat 6 and an A minor 7 flat 5 chord, I guess. In the book, he recommends practice over, there's a vamp, instead of these chords, it just practice over B flat to C minor. So let's do that. C minor, B flat, C minor. So I'm just gonna play B flat major 6, kind of arpeggio, and A minor 7 flat 5 over the C. That's kind of what's going on. That's the sound, and it could even be E flat or 4 minor, which is basically the same thing as a C minor 7 flat 5, right? The E flat minor 6 and C minor 7 flat 5 are the same notes. So if I play B flat, C minor, or E flat minor 6, it sounds like. So let me make a backing track with those chords, B flat major 7 and E flat minor 6. And notice that E flat minor 6 and C minor 7 flat 5 are the same, it's the same thing. Maybe maybe I play a B flat major arpeggio, major 7 arpeggios. Let me do that a bit better. So let me demonstrate that over the actual backing track, and even though all these chords are happening, I'm just gonna think like that over the A section. 1 to a 4 chord, to a 1 chord, to a 4 chord. I'm not gonna concern myself with all the D minor 7, G7s and all that stuff, right? So let's see, just to prove that it works, hopefully. And here D7 obviously. E flat. It's that monk tune, right? What is it? So I think you notice that it sounds pretty good, even though I'm not making all those changes. I'm just thinking like that. It makes it pretty easy for me, right? So next thing would be to actually consider the G7, which gives us that note, right? So I'll make a backing track like that. So I played some D minors there too. So here's a D minor instead of... You get all that stuff, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing before, but I'm gonna be aware of that G7. I need to consider this B, right? The third of that chord. So let me see. So B flat. Practice like that to get used to that, so you know, so that you can outline that chord and that sound if you want to. But the idea is that you don't have to do it all the time. You shouldn't be preoccupied with that. It's just should be an option. There's all these kind of jazz idioms that you can do, right? Like. I don't even know what tune, if that's a tune or what that is, but everybody plays that. And then there's the, I think it's cool blues. And then maybe, you know, the surrounding things like Django thing. Also another Django Reinhardt lick is from there's all this kind of stuff you can do, right? So that's my next point here is that you can learn from melodies. So let's look at some heads. Sure enough. That's anthropology, dexterity. try to use that. Why not the actual I got rhythm? Eternal triangle. Okay, then there are some more complex ones. I'm gonna get into this later, like the serpent's tooth. Sorry. The last one you hear people play, I don't even know what tune that is, if it's a tune or it's just something people play. Right, so there's also all these Django tunes, like, but sometimes he'll play in other keys. What's the Daphne? Okay, so the idea is to take those heads and just learn them in different positions and just try to be able to be kind of loose with them and inspired by them, so that you kind of get into the language of bebop, right? So then some of you might want to be more bebop-y than others. It's, for us guitar players, bebop is not very user friendly, right? It seems to be more natural for a sax player or a horn player. So we have to kind of figure out how to play those kind of heads on this instrument. But players like Joe Pass and Tal Farlow and all those guys have proven that it's perfectly possible to do that. But there's a catch-22. We really want to be able to do that, but we don't necessarily want to sound like that. But it's definitely something you need to be able to do, I think. But then how much bebop you want to... Sometimes it's like, when I play, it feels like I'm playing too much bebop stuff, right? So, yeah, there's a balance there. But let's move on with this. Another thing you can do is you can treat the 4 chord or like B flat. You can treat that chord as a B7, the sub 5 of the dominant. So B flat to a B dominant. And even the B flat could be a dominant chord, because you can kind of bluesify the tonic. So just B flat 13. Kind of like that tune, Well You Need It, the Monk tune. So let me make a backing track with those chords. B flats, B7. Just try it. Or major pentatonic. Or like Lydian flat 7 scales. You don't have to make the changes all the time. Because what happens is, like, you can treat everything like some kind of loose blues thing, right? Like, there's the blues element to this, which is kind of one of the secrets of jazz, which is kind of hard to explain in theory why that works, or given something you kind of have to figure out yourself, how to sound good using blues tonality. So and sometimes I want to outline that chord, but not every time. So if I think like that over the actual backing track where they're playing regular rhythm changes, let's see what that sounds like. Kind of overdoing it now, but I think you see that it's definitely possible to do that, and it's not really, it's pretty straightforward. Like, so, but you need to kind of be able to get that sound in your head. So listening to jazz play, especially Monk for this kind of stuff, right, will help you with that. So let's move on. Right. So there's this other thing you can do that the book gets really into this, which is to, if you think of B flat to G7, like the G7 could be a B diminished, right? So instead of B flat, G7, C minor, F, you get B flat, B diminished, C minor, C sharp diminished, D minor. So there's something you can kind of use, but again, if you want to use it with discretion, you don't want to do it every time, even though like the book is telling you that those are the chords sometimes. Doesn't mean that you have to play it all the time. You want to be able to kind of hint to that kind of sound. And this book really gets into all this kind of different things that how you can treat those chords, because it's a little bit tricky, right? So that's where this kind of thing is coming from. So it might be a good idea to make a backing track with those kinds of chords. So so it's kind of slow, right? Obviously, you want to practice slow before you get it up to speed. One of the problems with rhythm changes is that usually people play it pretty fast, right? But obviously, you need to be able to do it in a more medium tempo, right? So playing fast is a whole other topic in and of itself. And there's this super crazy thing. I mean, there's all these sorts of since it's a turnaround, there's tons of different variations, and you can find people come up with hundreds of variations of the turnaround. There's like all sorts of stuff, but again, that's kind of, once you feel really comfortable playing the regular turnaround, that's when you want to be able to do that. You shouldn't start with that. Kind of, that's what I did, was kind of backwards. You should be able to play strong over the regular turnaround before you get in also all sorts of alterations. But one thing I want to show you is a really cool thing that you can do. It's using extended dominance to the point of ridiculousness almost. So if you think extended dominance is just going backwards, right? You can start on an F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, C, F, and then you're on the is something they do on that album for musicians only. I think it's a Sonny Stitt album. He's definitely on it. So for musicians only, they do this, and it's kind of, it feels like they just do it spontaneously, and the bass player is kind of picking up on it, which is crazy. Or maybe they planned it. Who knows? But it works if you play ridiculously fast tempos. It works better in fast tempos. But I'll show you what it sounds like. So I'm gonna make one just regular turnaround, and then one where I throw in these extended dominants. So. I don't know if I play that lick properly there. I'm trying to read this as I'm playing. Obviously, it sounds pretty ridiculous at this tempo, so let me try to do this over the actual backing track here, so bear with me. If I'm not even sure if I'm able to do this. But here we go. It sounds better at that tempo. This is not even medium up, it's like medium, right? So this works a lot better at fast tempos. And my fingerings were terrible. It's really difficult for guitar players to come up with a fingering that works for this kind of stuff. So but it's a fun thing, right? It's fun. If you can throw that in on a jam, people will be like, whoa, whoa. Right, so I think that was it for what I had. Again, there's so much more you could say, but I didn't even talk about what you're supposed to play over the bridge, so maybe that's another lesson. Hopefully you got some ideas out of this, and I shall see you.